Hi everybody, this is Dennis from the Dennis and Andy Show, and I'm going to be doing a full review of the index card role-playing game. This is the Master Edition. I picked it up on TTRPG. These are print to order. I did the softbound just to kind of compare it. Runehammer puts this one out. You guys may know I just did a review of the EZD6, also by Runehammer, and this was the hardback, so I could kind of compare the difference. I'm going to say I do like the hardback, but this soft cover shipped out really, really quickly. As many of you know, I am doing, I'm the writer on a project called Kor-Drath The Reckoning. It's a comic book, and it's an entire world that I'm basing, and originally I was going to do the role-playing stuff in 5th edition, but with the change of everything that happened with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro pissing off fans and creators alike, I've decided to steer clear. So one thing that I wanted to do was find an alternative role-playing system that I didn't have to worry about the OGL with. And a lot of my friends gave me different ideas. One of them was ICRPG. So it was EZD6, which I really enjoyed. You can check out my full review of that. And then Hankerin Faranow put out this. And as I started reading through this, I realized that there was something kind of special to this system that may fit them. So I just kind of want to go through it. Now, you guys are looking at this going, oh my God, look how big that's a huge rule book. That's like D&D. Well, here's the funny part. From pages 2 to 19, there's your core rules. There are all of your rules. So the base core system for playing this is an incredibly simple little system, and we're going to go through some of that. And then really the rest of the book winds up breaking out. There's the player guide, which we'll get into. There's the GM section, the monster section. All the rest of the book is different worlds and then magic at the back. So in this one, you can play fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons. It's got like what I would call a Boot Hill type of a world with like a Western. You've got a superhero cyberpunk world. All those different worlds are described. There's 5 in this book. So, I mean, that's where the bulk of the pages takes up. This is very intuitive, very fun. They stripped away a lot of the rigmarole and the excess. Now, if you're a number cruncher and you love dealing like an Earth Dawn or, Earth Dawn, Shadowrun, or if you like Paizo, like the current stuff, you're probably not going to be as fond of this if you're a number cruncher. This kind of breaks it down. This just talks about the D20 system. I am a paper and pencil kind of guy. I like to role play, with my friends and stuff like that. However, a lot of my friends, they live out of state, so we still try and do it. They also have a system here, and I won't go into it in this video, but they have a virtual tabletop that they use the Foundry with, and I bought the Foundry, and then I wound up having to do a hosting because of my terrible ISP. And needless to say, I wound up buying the ICRPG rules and stuff for it, so going to be digging into it. This basically goes into turns. It describes a lot of the basics. In your turn, there's an action only, a move near action, or, you can move far. And again, you don't have to pull out tape measures, and it describes, hey, if I'm right here, if I can basically reach my arm out and touch you, you're right near me. Are you within 30 feet roughly? So you don't have to be super specific. This gives you the feeling as you go through this book that it reminds me a lot of the original. I grew up with the original basic box set, then went to AD&D, then went to 2nd, 3rd edition. This reminds me of the original box type of stuff where a lot of this was theater of the mind. Really enjoyed that. So here you can do, it breaks out what simple actions are, what you need to do checks for, and attempts. It's very simple. The target, this is something really, really neat that's different in this system. every what we call a scene. So if you have a scene and let's say you're in a dungeon and there's a couple of monsters, there's a pit in there, there's a target number that you'll see on there. That target is everything. The monsters, jumping over the pit, whatever it is you need to do, it's based on that. Now the cool thing is, if let's say you failed, then it becomes an easy roll. If something is hard, you add 3 to it. If something is easy, you subtract 3. So if the base room is a 12, to hit the monster, you need a target of 12. Or if it's easy, it becomes a 9. If it's hard, it becomes a 15. Every room, the die sits there. I'll probably just set a actual die out there with the target on there. It's actually really awesome. The players already know what they have to do. And unlike the easy D6 system, this system utilizes all the different dice. So if you're just doing stuff with your bare hands or your wits, no tools, you roll a D4. Any type of a weapon, doesn't matter if it's a dagger, a long sword, things like that. It all uses a D6. If you're in a world where you have guns do D8. If you're casting magical effects and energy, it does D10. And then the D12 is for what they call ultimate. When you roll a critical success on your attempt, a natural 20, or there's a number of things that give you what they call ultimate, you use a D12 instead. Now, the other thing that makes this very simple is this is a heart base. It gets rid of 10, 12, 14, 16 hit points, and it uses a heart, kind of like your Legend of Zelda or your old Lego, video games. Each heart is 10 hit points. So if you look at a character, most characters in this game have 10 hit points. It's not a lot, so you do have to worry about, be conscious of death in it. But your monsters too. If you see a 1 heart monster, you know it's got 10 hit points. If there's a 2, you know it's got 20 hit points. And then they tend to be a little bit stronger. So again, we talked about movement and distance, close, near, and far. Time is kind of important when a player takes the stage for a few brief movements, doing a few rolls. It's a 1 turn. Turn is 10 to 20 seconds of action. So it's not set, necessarily like in D&D where you had a round is 6 seconds and 10 rounds to a turn. But it does. You almost kind of have to have a similar system. Death is a very important thing. When you reach 0. You're eventually going to find yourself at 0. In that instant, your character drops unconscious. All spells or effects you were creating vanish. So now you roll a d4 to see how many rounds it is until you really wind up dying for good. So you always hope for the high rolls. It's a miracle. On each of your turns while dying, you get a narrow chance. So you roll a d20. If you roll a natural 20, it's a miracle. You suddenly pop up to 1 hit point and survive. There's ways they talk about if you're blown to bits, where if you go down to negative 20, like you're in something and like a fireball, it just wipes you completely out or whatever, or you fall off a gigantic cliff. But they have different ways. How do you recover? It's very simple on how you recover. And then the cool one, don't die on me, man. If you're unconscious and bleeding out, counting down precious dying rounds, you need to help. If an ally can reach you and make a successful roll with your intelligence or wisdom stat on the current target, your dying timer stops in its tracks. You're stable but unconscious, and you owe your ally. So that is something to always be cognizant of. Death is a real thing in here, which means you kind of got to play smart. You just can't rush in and go, I'm level 12. I have 240 hit points. I am going to soak up everything. Doesn't work that way. So this is again, very cool. You get something called the hero coin. Each character is allowed to gain up to 1, and you can use 1. And you can use only 1 at a time. There's no hoarding them. You can re-roll any die with it. You can turn your hero coin to add a d12. So there's that ultimate die onto any die roll. So man, it's kind of like 7th Sea in a way. If there's a way you really want to make this epic thing, I'm going to turn my hero coin and I'm going to add a d12 onto it, hopefully rolling high. You can give your hero coin to another player at any time during the game. Now, if you do really cool stuff, you don't have a hero coin, you've used it, but you do something really awesome, either role-playing, whatever, your GM will actually be able to give you one, another one. That's it. There is all of your rules. So, like I said, it's very intuitive. Now we kind of can go through the player's guide. The character sheet is very simple. Your D&D type setting is Elfheim. They also have Warp Shell, where if you're doing space ones, Ghost Mountain, Vigilante City, that's your superhero one, and Blood and Snow. So there's a number of different worlds in here. But here's where it gets really interesting. You get 6 points. So we don't deal with, 14, 16, 18 points and worrying about the pluses. This, you assign your 6 points to any of the 6 stats, and you're just dealing with the bonuses. That's really all that matters. It's all that really matters in any of the game. They're just arbitrary numbers. It talks about how you calculate your defense, which is your constitution plus whatever, loot that you have. That's in it, plus 10. Booster effect types, locate status info, so you can find that's how many hearts that you have. There it talks about the hero coin and dying. Mastery. You'll have a little bar at the bottom. Every time that you roll a natural 20, you get to X one out. When you get 20 of them, you gain a mastery. So that is also cool. It's another way to increase your abilities. You choose then your abilities, and if you're doing the superhero one, you have powers, or like a cyberpunk one, you have augments. And then you get your loot. You get 1 starting loot and then 4 basic loot items to add. You can carry 10 items and equip 10 items. So, it's really neat how they, set everything up. In Elfheim, which is, like I said, your D&D one, you've got a human that gives you a +1 intelligence, +1 charisma. It gives you a bunch of information. Dwarves, +1 strength, +1 con. Elves and Tortons, which are like turtle people. We always call them TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Gerblins, those are your goblin type creatures. Then you get into your types, where in D&D it's called classes. You have your warrior. You have your starting ability. So like you can be a slayer. If attacking an enemy you already have harm, do ultimate damage. Defender, pit fighter. Then you choose one of your starting loots. So these are very specific to that type of a class, a type. And then we were talking about milestones. If you get awarded a milestone, then, this goes up. And then here's the mastery. For example, if you get your 20, you gain a mastery. There's Slayer. Anytime you destroy an enemy, hit another enemy within close range with no limit of change or action. So it's like an unlimited power attack from the D&D versions. So there's lots of different ways to go up. There's just not levels. It's all about your loot. They have a hunter, which is a marksman, a shadow, which is a stealthy guy, a bard. We all know about bards, mages, a priest, which also can be like monks. And then there's your basic loots that you get to choose from. So, like I said, and there's your basic spells. There's an entire spell section in the back. There's your wisdom spells. That is it for the entire D&D. It takes you anywhere from 10, 15 minutes to, make up a character. If you get used to it, it takes even quicker. This is a super easy, fantastic system to be able to learn. Then you get into the GM section, and it basically talks and gives you ideas. And like if you're in Elfheim or the Warp Shell, the space one, how hearts work, initiatives and turns, how to run it, the art. It talks about the 3 T's, the timers, the threats, and the treats. So like your rewards. So for those of you who are new to game mastering, this is a really very simple but really intuitive system on what to do. It talks about horror modes and sanity damage. And then it goes into index cards. What makes this system unique is that it actually does things with actually index cards. And it's neat because you may have a card that'll show rocks. You may have a card which is your setting. You may have a trap. You may have whatever. So you can instead of having all this design and terrain set up, you can do everything with very simple index cards and lay them down. It's a really cool system where you don't have to invest a lot of money because a lot of this is all theater of the mind. Monster listings, this is, again, very simple. It'll list like the monster, like an Ant-Man. They 1 heart, so you know they have 10 hit points. All of their rolls are at +2, and they get 2 actions per turn. And then it shows what they slash with. They use swords. What they have a special ability, a dismembering bite. If more than 6 damage is dealt, the target can lose a limb. Oh, snap. Acid mist, they can also do that. And then it gives like a little brief description. So instead of having an entire page for a monster, a little tiny half page, and that's all that you really need for monsters in this game. You can kind of see these are a lot of the ones that they've created. Very, very awesome. You can make your own monsters up if you have a particular theme or whatever. You can go through it. So anyway, I don't want to dwell just on monsters, but you can see there's a swarm. No rolls, 1 action per turn. It's got no hearts. Basically has like 1 hit point. And, there are like monsters, kind of like 7th Sea where you had like your little minions. This can also be minions where a type 1 monster, basically has 1 heart. But you can actually have them as like henchmen, and where they just have 1 hit point. There's a whole bunch of them though, so you can go. You have to do contingencies. So they have tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 monsters. You can see how it goes up: +2 to stats, no effort bonuses; +4 to stats; +6 to stats; +8 and so like your giant monsters and stuff. And in here, a lot of them, like your vampires and dragons, they can't be defeated. You can temporarily defeat them, but you can't kill them. So again, it's really neat how they do monsters in this, and you can use some. There's a huge community out there. I see that they're already creating their own and giving you help. And then here is all the world. So Elfheim, and it breaks them down. There's your Warp Shell, your Ghost Mountain, which is very much like your Western Vigilante City, and then Snow and Blood. So that's kind of like the Game of Thrones when they're out in there. And then the back section is all magic, and this talks about their realm of their arcane. It goes through their power failures and what happens in all the different types of magic. It talks about your starting loot, the creations, your Sanctum Sanctorum. I love that. Thank you, Dr. Strange reference. Talks about making towers and what their purposes are in the game. The different types, arcane, holy, and infernal spells. And I know that there's a lot of communities. I just bought their magic compendiums. They've got volume 1 and 2. I literally just bought them last night. I haven't even had a chance to crack them open because in my world, I'm actually got a very different magic system. So I really love this because you can tailor the magic to whatever you want. Everything that's in this book is a suggestion, a set of rules. There's nothing hard and defined. There's no arguing over rules lawyering. Again, just a really incredible set. In the back, there's all these tables, and I love tables. D20 for the Elfheim hero. Here's a hero. Here's the hero story. Here's gear. Here's a quote. You can help create and customize your character in mere seconds. You don't have an idea with what you want to do. There's a goal, and there's your origin. You can do the hero. Like if you roll a 16, it's an elf scout. So there you're building an elf scout who's trained at sea and blah, blah, blah. So you can go through and very quickly come up with very quick either heroes or NPCs if they're going to be important NPCs. Monster selectors. You know, this is based off percentiles. You roll your percentiles, and there it is. And there's some of the ones that are included, but you can make your own. There's your monster maker. The state of the monster with the motivation, the abilities, and upgrade, and loot. You guys want to give out loot? You just don't want to pick, you want to be random? There's your random ancient loot. There's shabby loot. There's cursed loot, sci-fi loot, epic loot, bizarre loot, Ghost Mountain. They've got their own in there. And then magic loot. So if you're an Elfheim or a D&D setting, and then at the very back you see this is the entire character sheet. So if we get a chance to look at this, there's your 6 stats. You'll be 0 to the most you can get in this game is plus 10 to anything. There's your basics, and then so you add 6 points into your stats, 4 into your effort. So if you're just doing stuff by hand, you can add a +1 or a +2 weapons and tools, guns, energy, and ultimate. So you get 4 that you get to add in there. Your defense, a hero coin. If you're dying, how many turns, your loot, your abilities. So, I mean, everything that you need to run is right here. If you do the virtual tabletop, your character sheet looks very similar to this. It doesn't take very much to set up. You literally can set up everything you need very, very quickly. Again, if you're looking for really thick rules and you really love crunching numbers, this wouldn't be for you. But for the rest of you, if you're looking for something simple, fun, intuitive, you want to do some creating of your own, or you can use what's in here. I think you're going to love this system. It's really fun. I have decided in my world, so I'll be making a formal announcement on our YouTube channel. But I have gotten permission. I'm going to go ahead and use the index card role-playing game for the module. There's just so many upsides to this. You really need one book, but if you want to delve into it and pick up, there's a lot of great material for it in TTRPG. But realistically, this is all you want. I think I was able to pick the soft cover up with the PDF for $16.50. They had it on sale. And this is in my mind, a steal. And I would recommend everybody pick up their own copy. I know the guys that I'm playing with, they're already ordering their own. So I'm going to give this what we call a CGC rating, which is what I use in comic books. It's how they grade them. It's a 0.5 rating to a 10.0, which is like a unicorn. I'm going to give this a 9.4, which is a near mint. It's an amazing system. I really love it. I would highly recommend this. I think if you guys give this a shot, you know, all the books, if you looked at my bookshelves, I used to have just shelves and shelves of books from D&D and Paizo. And realistically, this book alone does everything that they basically do in there. Plus, it allows you the ability to very simply create your own stuff. I recommend this book, and I hope you all give it a shot. Check down below. I'm going to leave links to it for finding it on the Drive-Thru RPG. Runehammer's got a great community down there, so you'll be able to find links to people in the community that are helping produce stuff for this. I would check that out. And I will also leave the link for Kor-Drath The Reckoning, so you can check out my creation that we're creating, which is it's comic book, and then I'm doing an old school module for role playing. There's cards. We've already hit the stretch goals where you're going to get some character cards with abilities. I'll be converting them all into index RPG stats as well. So anyway, check all the links down below. And don't forget, you can also check out, I'll leave the link for the Easy D6 if you guys want something even a little bit simpler. And I know DM Scotty helped test play, and I know they've had over 10,000 people test play this. And it shows. It's evolving into a really cool system. So anyway, hit the like and subscribe button. Leave your comments below. Let me know your thoughts. You may agree completely with me. You may totally disagree with me. Everybody's different from what they like, but I'd love to hear from you guys just like I do on the comic book side. So smash the subscribe button so you do know when we put out my quick flips, which are like little 60-second videos where I can just show you something real quick. And then I can do full reviews, in-depth reviews like this. We interview typically comic book writers and artists on our Wednesday shows. And then, you know, we also do movie, TV show reviews. So make sure you subscribe to the DNA channel. Look forward to talking to you and keep rolling some dice.